My name is Tia Kimbrough, and I am a Black, non-binary, and transmasculine person. To advocate for my community, the Black trans community, I want to take the time in this video to highlight an unfortunate implication of being an out Black trans person, transphobic violence. In this video, I will be highlighting some recent cases of heinous murders of Black trans people, primarily to emphasize the fact that it is still not fully safe to exist as a Black trans person in the U.S. Given the current political climate, where some states have begun passing anti-trans laws and bills, it's important to show how this harmful rhetoric and fear-mongering can lead to tragic consequences. Before I begin detailing some of these tragedies, I would first like to bring attention to some troubling stats about transphobic violence. Data shows that the trans community faces higher rates of violence than any other demographic. In fact, trans people are 2.5 times as likely to be victims of violence than cisgender people. Black trans people, particularly trans women and femmes, disproportionately bear the brunt of this violence, making up 73% of homicides in the transgender population. This horrifying fact is made worse by the fact that Black trans women only make up 13% of said population. With these shocking stats in mind, I will now talk about some murders that have all taken place in the past calendar year. Brazil Johnson was shot and killed on June 15, 2022 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. She was only 28 years old. She was a passionate chef and also was an LGBTQ+ activist who was a member of Diverse and Resilient, which is an organization working to achieve health equity and improve the safety and well-being of LGBTQ+ people and communities in Wisconsin. Regina Allen was shot and killed on August 29, 2022 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Known as Maya to loved ones, she was 35 and only less than a month away from turning 36. She was a member of Sisters Helping Each Other Battle Adversity, also known as SHIBA, which is an advocacy, empowerment, and support group for Black transgender women. Samaj Billingsley was shot and killed on September 21, 2022 in Jacksonville, Florida. He was only 33 years old. In an interview, his father stated that he touched a lot of people and that he was loved. Destiny Howard was shot and killed on December 9, 2022 in Atlanta, Georgia. She was 23 years old and reportedly loved fashion. When her death was initially reported, she was misgendered and dead-named, which happens to a lot of trans victims of violence. This leads to their deaths not initially being counted as due to transphobic violence or only being counted way after the fact. Marquise Jackson was found dead in a backyard in Philadelphia's Nicetown neighborhood on December 14, 2022. Reports said that he had been dead up to 48 hours before he was found. Known to those who were close to him as MJ, he was 33 years old. He was heavily involved in transgender activism, being a proponent of Philadelphia's Williams Way Center, the Transgender Legal Defense Fund, and the Free Kai Project. His twin sister, Sherry Harvey, stated that he was full of life and love. Jasmine Parker was stabbed to death in Northeast Washington, D.C. on January 7, 2023. She was 36 years old and only weeks away from turning 37. Days after her death, the city's trans community rallied together to hold a candlelight vigil and condemn her murder. Ivory Nicole Smith was found dead in her apartment on January 24, 2023 in San Francisco. She was 27 and a beloved member of the city's trans community. She was a trans activist and entrepreneur and served as a program associate in the Transgender District and as a member of the Trans Advisory Committee with the city's Office of Transgender Initiatives. She was described by her peers as someone who was a brilliant leader. Cachet Henderson was shot dead in Milwaukee, Wisconsin on February 26, 2023. Only 31 years old, she was described as vibrant, happy, and with so many plans. Like Brazil Johnson and Regina Allen, she was also a member of the aforementioned organizations Diverse and Resilient as well as SHIBA. Ashley Burden was killed in Atlanta, Georgia on April 11, 2023. She was a 37-year-old makeup artist and hairstylist who was described by family as confident and comfortable in her own skin. She was a fighter who fled her assailant and desperately sought help from neighbors before she died. Rashida Williams was shot and killed in Atlanta, Georgia on April 18, 2023. She was a 35-year-old artist and rapper that also went by the name Coco the Doll. She was one of the stars of the documentary entitled Kokomo City, which was made by filmmaker D. Smith and centers the stories of Black trans women. The documentary debuted at Sundance this year and is set for a theatrical release. Again, it's important to note that all of these murders have been committed in the past calendar year, and yet I haven't even scratched the surface, which is both disturbing and disheartening. It's also frightening that 3 of the tragedies I mentioned happened in Milwaukee and 2 in Atlanta. These stories are not in the mainstream news, but these patterns should certainly be garnering serious attention and action. Before I end this video, I'd like to thank Dr. Jones for providing the blueprint for Street Scholarship and Mallory Jenna Robinson for her help in supplying me with some sources about this subject matter. She makes an amazing podcast entitled Hateful Homicide, which is a true crime style podcast that focuses on the murders of trans and non-binary people. The link to her podcast, as well as all of the sources I use for this video, are in the description box below. I'd like to conclude this video with the simple adage that Black trans lives matter. Today, tomorrow, the next day, and for the rest of the days to come.